And so I just want to, tell people that if you're passionate about it, it's a labor of love, and you just take it day by day. And reflecting back, it's like, whoa, I did that. And then I just remember thinking at the time, like, oh, this is so hard. Like, am I going to get through it?
Look, the biggest podcast where you can learn them lessons. Line for line where you can learn from different sections. Made it out the mud, come tell your story, blessings. Never know who listening, never know who stressing. Devon gave you a voice, come speak your honest truth. Line for line, go bar for bar, it's up to you. Wanna talk sports, gov, and politics? Wanna talk about where you from and your accomplishments? Then Line for Line is really where you need to be. A platform that's really made for folks like you and me. You can find it all no matter what you seek. Whether you calling or you listening, tune in every week.
All right. Just like that, we are in another episode of Line for Line podcast. I have a very special guest in the building, someone that I met in med school, if you will, at Herzing University. I have Mrs. Drew in the building. Drew, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Yes, ma'am. How was your day today?
It was good. Working busy, in the walk-in clinic, do a little bit of everything. So it feels good to kind of relax a little bit, too.
Yes, ma'am. What did you think of that minor snow that we had earlier?
You know what? Nothing phases me. We live in Wisconsin. Expect unexpected.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So before we get ready to start into this episode, just tell people a little bit about you, where you grew up, maybe, just some cool things about you.
All right. So I was born and raised in Kenosha. Haven't really been out of the state much, unfortunately. I attended Herzing University. I received my bachelor's in science and nursing from there. Also went on and finished my master's degree in science and nursing with a concentration in family practice. I am a certified family nurse practitioner, and I specialize in, in advanced medical aesthetics. I have my own independent practice, so I work for myself.
Let's go.
Thank you. And I'm also back in school, set to finish in May to specialize in psychiatric mental health as well.
Oh my gosh, young lady, how do you have time to blink? How do you have time to go to sleep?
It's a labor of love.
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit about the business that you started.
Okay. So I started my practice in July of 2019 in the middle of a global pandemic. Sounds crazy, but I have clients that support me and will follow me to the ends of the earth, as some would say, and they really motivated me to start my own practice. And so I actually collaborate with Dr. Junith Thompson, who is an independent OBGYN in Kenosha and has been for the last 35 years, and she serves the minority groups of Kenosha, Wisconsin. And so I met her, and we kind of clicked it off, and I asked her to be my medical director, and she agreed. She also offers medical aesthetics, so it's, kind of a challenging situation for a lot of people to, to come into that environment and not take away from each other and just really collaborate and support other providers and women in the industry. And so I've been renting part of her facility for the last year and a half. So.
Nice. So for those listeners at home, what is medical aesthetics?
Medical aesthetics are medical treatments that can involve an array of different treatments. I offer botulism toxin or Botox treatments or neuromodulators, derma fillers. I also specialize in platelet-rich fibrin treatments, which utilizes your body's own stem cells and growth factors. And we utilize and harvest those healing properties of someone's blood, and we basically re-inject them into the body, the face, or the hair to regenerate cellular rejuvenation. And so I've had really great success with that. I'm just focusing on more of a natural and holistic way to treat, certain medical conditions and stuff like that. I do microneedling, scalp micropigmentation, PDO threads. There's just a lot of different treatments that we do, and it's to do two things. It's not only to help fight the aging process, but it's also to help restore and enhance confidence. And a lot of people, whether that may be something that may seem minor or insignificant to us, really does mean a lot to someone else. And so by just kind of, restoring that confidence, when you look good, you feel good. And I think that does show as well. And so that's kind of a little bit about what I do. I always tell people I'm not the provider for everyone. I really do strongly emphasize the natural and holistic boundaries and really just paying respect to someone's natural anatomy. I don't augment anyone into something that they're not. I can enhance natural features, and that's definitely something that I specialize in as well. One thing that I see oftentimes is that body dysmorphia is a real thing that I see on a daily basis in my office. There's this unrealistic expectation of beauty and this visual of like perfection, and it's just not real. It's just unrealistic for sure. So it's very transparent about that and just supporting that holistic natural outcome.
Yes, ma'am. When you say you're not the one for everyone, I totally feel that, because I went in there thinking I was going to look like Will Smith, and here I am still looking like the same old Devon. So I want no, I'm just playing. But how do people go about reaching you and getting involved in your practice?
Yeah, so my practice is pretty straightforward. It's called Drew Aesthetics. So when I went independent, I wanted people to be able to find me. There's not a lot of Drews in Kenosha or just females in general. So essentially you can just type in Google Drew Aesthetics, and you'll find me there. I do have a professional Facebook page at Drew Aesthetics, and also my Instagram, which is my professional page at Drew Aesthetic NP. And people can reach out to me directly on there. I do have a business line that is posted online as well, and so people can call, text me.
Yes, ma'am. Now, what can people expect upon meeting you for their first consultation, if you will?
Yeah, bringing someone in and just sitting them down and talking about, the biggest areas of their concern, what they like, what they don't like, what their eye draws to when they look in the mirror. We really do a comprehensive approach. It's not just one thing. And I always tell people the face is like a house, and you're not just looking at like the eyes or the mouth or anything like that. It's not like the windows or door. You're looking at the whole picture. And so together we will discuss signs of aging, preventative treatments, and then how to treat those areas. And so we'll work out a collaborative, comprehensive plan of care together, and we'll decide what steps we're going to do first moving forward.
Yes, ma'am. Now, how often is it that you're checking in with your clients post-procedure with you?
That's very important. Usually after every procedure, it's usually a 2-week follow-up where I encourage all my clients to reach out to me. They all have my direct cell phone number to contact me for any safety concerns, so they know they can call me, text me, send me pictures, because I am the medical provider. I don't want them on Google, looking at anything.
That's everyone's favorite thing to do.
Right. And, a lot of people don't know what's normal and what's not normal, even when they come from other providers. And so I always encourage them to say, hey, just reach out to me directly. We always try to plan a 2-week follow-up, whether that be through text. They shoot me a picture or something like that, just to ensure, number one, safety is not compromised. Number two, they look natural and they're not walking around looking crazy. I think that's always important. And then just seeing what the next steps are after that.
Yes, ma'am. Now, what is the process like? Is the patient under anesthesia? How is it that you go? Everything's local? What's that like?
Yeah, it depends on what treatments that we do. And essentially almost all the treatments that I do in office are non-invasive. So like, for example, like Botox or any neuromodular treatments, which we refer to them as like anti-wrinkle injections, they don't require any topical anesthetic or anything like that. It's almost like a quick little pinprick. I use a very tiny needle. It's called an insulin needle. So it's a 31 gauge, super quick. It's actually only like a 2-minute procedure, like itself.
Oh, wow.
Like it's just a few pokes. The consultation and the talking and creating a plan of care is actually what takes the longest. Anything like derma filler, I do typically apply a topical anesthetic. These are all medical grade anesthetics that I offer. So it's benzocaine, tetracaine, and lidocaine. I actually get it compounded at Modern Apothecary here in Kenosha.
Let's go. Modern Apothecary is that spot. Let's go.
Love them.
Yeah.
And I actually work with the owner's husband, Will Merritt. He's part of our a separate practice that I work with. But yeah, they're super convenient. I can call them and say, hey, I want the best cover for my patients. That's what I'm looking for. They compound it for me, and then I pick it up from them.
Yes, Modern Apothecary is that spot. Obviously, working in healthcare myself, I work closely with them as well too. So I know their work, and their work is top tier. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And some other procedures are a little bit more invasive, and I can do a local anesthetic, which is lidocaine as well, but nothing to where they would require to be under full anesthetic. I'm not a surgeon by any means necessary. I do focus on non-invasive procedures, but still have a powerful impact to give results.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I'm selling.
Now, once a patient comes in for you, how soon is it till they start seeing the effects of what you've done start to pay off for them and help with their confidence as well too?
Yeah, it really comes down to what treatments that we're offering. So anti-wrinkle injections typically take 2 weeks to see the peak effects of those treatments, and that's when I would bring them back in. Derma filler is instant, but there is a little bit of an inflammatory response, like swelling, trauma to the area. So even though those results are instant, I always tell my patients, you do have some swelling, and to anticipate about 20 to 30% reduction of that. So I always tell them 2 weeks before any big event, just make sure you pre-plan, and then making sure to bring them back in to make sure everything's settled correctly. Other treatments like PDO threads, which is actually really cool. It's called polydeaxione surgical suture that gets placed intradermally into the tissue. There's 2 different types of threads. There's smooth PDO threads that stimulate collagen, and then there's also barbed threads, which sounds super scary, but it's really cool because they allow me to immediately lift and reapproximate the tissue. So my clients get this immediate lift, and then the body will slowly absorb and metabolize the thread over the course of 4 to 6 months, depending on which threads we use, and will stimulate collagen. So you get that instant effect of the lifting threads, and then you also get the neocollagenesis or the collagen induction therapy that will provide results for 1 to 3 years. So really depends on what treatments we're using. Something like stem cell replacement therapy or like the platelet-rich fibrin treatment I was telling you about typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to see the final result. Because it does take time for your body to stimulate those growth factors and then to produce collagen elastin that's going to produce that long-term result.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now, when you first started your business, did you think you would be where you are now with it? Because before reaching out to you, I already knew about the business. Like, she's popping. This girl is doing it all. She's dancing with the stars, if you will. So did you think it would be where it is now?
I didn't necessarily know where I would be. I always try to take things day by day, especially because I am very busy because I do a lot of different aspects in healthcare, not just medical aesthetics, but it's something I'm truly passionate about. And I always say it's a labor of love. And so I feel like what you put into it, you get back. And so that's something that I feel very, it feels good. It's like rewarding. It's like this instant gratification with that. And then the feedback that I get from my clients, hearing how the treatments that I'm offering, it impacts them in a positive way, that's just what really makes it feel really good. And just that dedication to furthering my education and all that good stuff, it really, I hope it shows to my patients. And kind of a really cool thing that I like to do too is I really like to bring the patients along and create this collaborative relationship together and really break down the basic science and anatomy so that they can understand why we're doing certain things. It's not a paternalistic approach by any means where I'm saying this is what we got to do and we're going to do it. It's really involving them into their plan of care and talking about those together openly is very important.
Yes, ma'am. Now, business owner to business owner, what would be a piece of advice that you can give me that you use maybe when you're not feeling the best in like the middle of a hectic week or something like that?
Knowing when to ask for help. I think that's something that I've always struggled with for sure. Kind of an interesting fact is that my mother is also my patient coordinator / manager.
Right. Yes. Let's go.
And so I really rely on her to help kind of manage everything as well, just because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of little things that kind of add up over time. And so just kind of knowing when to delegate as well has been really beneficial for me. To get additional support. So that's what I would say. Knowing when to ask for help because it's, got to take care of yourself too.
Yes, ma'am. Now, do you see yourself ever bringing amongst a team to help you out? Where are you with that process if that was something that you're thinking of?
That's a really good question. I have brought in other providers into my office, not only to let them shadow me and mentor them and kind of, give them some pointers or some safety pros that I've learned along the ways, during my injection career and stuff like that. That's really important, that mentorship and that collaboration with other providers. I did have 2 providers kind of come on board, and we were trying to work out a potential arrangement to where, they would be in addition to my practice. And right now, it didn't work out with them specifically, but I do have something new and exciting coming up.
Is it your venture with Line for Line? No, I'm just fine.
It will. I am looking to potentially move locations, grow and expand. And so it's in the process. It's a lot of work. And again, with just the laws of Wisconsin just changing very rapidly, just kind of relying on attorneys and lawyers to kind of tell me to make sure that I'm meeting all of those requirements in Wisconsin is just kind of, that process of just making sure that I'm able to do those things. So I do plan on relocating and growing and adding additional providers to my team. Absolutely. That's always the goal.
Yes, ma'am. Now, we noticed this isn't the only part in the medical field that you play. What are some other roles that you play when it comes to medical care?
Yeah, when I graduated with my master's in science and nursing, Herzing University did reach out to me and asked me to teach. I did teach for a few semesters. I taught geriatric clinical.
Nice.
I was in Zion and I was at the Grove and I loved it there. It was a really great experience, but unfortunately COVID kind of hit and everything went virtual. And virtual simulation just really wasn't my thing at all. So I resigned from my teaching position. But I left the bigger hospital systems of Kenosha and I joined with Kenosha Medical Group, also known as Zenith Healthcare. We are one of the largest physician independent networks in Southeast Wisconsin, and we care for our patients the way that we see fit, which it's all about patient care at the end of the day. So I currently work at Zoomy Urgent Care on the south side of Kenosha. So I do acute care, family practice there, and I also round at Lakeview Specialty Hospital.
Nice.
So I'm also a hospitalist as well. So I go out there a little bit. And then go to my practice and in school. So do a little bit of everything. And I've tried a little bit of everything too. I did correctional health care at one point. I worked in the ICU. I did a little bit of everything to kind of figure out what I enjoyed and kind of narrow down my focus from there.
Yes, ma'am. Now, for those listeners at home and those women who are aspiring to be the next Drew, which maybe I said that wrong, aspiring to just be the next I can't even talk today. You got me all choked up over it. But just aspiring to be the next help to serve their community. Just tell us a little bit about the sacrifices and everything like that goes into this long journey that you've been on.
Yeah, just to obtain my master's degree, it was I did an accelerated program. So like my BSN or my bachelor's degree was 3 years straight, and that's no breaks. It's straight through. You can absolutely relate to how Herzing's curriculum was.
Yes,
and even my master's program, it was 2 additional years. And not only coursework do you have to do, but you also have clinical or like a preceptorship. And I did 720 hours over the course of 2 years, which essentially is like, you're paying to work and get experience, which is, very, very challenging. I do have a son. And so my sacrifice was away from my family on a daily basis, and so it does take a lot of work and dedication. And even now, with my program that I'm in now, it's an additional 700 clinical hours that I have to pursue to specialize in these certain things. And so I just want to, tell people that if you're passionate about it, it's a labor of love, and you just take it day by day. And reflecting back, it's like, whoa, I did that. And then I just remember thinking at the time, like, oh, this is so hard. Like, am I going to get through it? And looking back, it just seems like nothing now.
What would you say are some things that kept you going through it? Because when I was going through school, there were so many times where I'm like, man, I don't think this is for me anymore. Like, obviously, you're starting here, and then you're looking down there, and you know about all the hard work that it takes to get down there. What are some things that just kept you fueled to get to where you are now?
Essentially it's my family, my son, all the people that rely on me, like specifically like my close immediate family. I always told people that failure really wasn't an option for me. My husband's a stay-at-home parent, and I rely on him to hold down the household while I go to school and do these things. So, we've both made sacrifices, but it's really my family at the end of the day, that's who you do it for, and that's why it's really cool for me to be able to kind of, employ my mother and really treat her, as a key asset that she is in my life. And, just taking them out to dinner or something and just say, hey, thanks for supporting me along the way and stuff like that. So those are my motivating factors as I look at them, and I'm just like, this is where I want to be in 5-10 years. This is where I see us, and that's what keeps driving me.
Yes, ma'am. What is that feeling like to know that you can employ those close to you and help change their lives while changing your life at the same time.
It's an amazing feeling, but also working with family can be a little bit difficult where, it's hard because, number one, she's my mom. So me telling her, telling her what to do a little bit makes me nervous because I'm just like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. Yeah. But also she's, it's having that open communication and being receptive to both sides of it to where, sometimes like nothing has ever been like super crazy where I'm like, oh man, this is really hard. But we're also, perfectionist, right? And when you're running a business or a practice and it's your name on the door, you want to make sure that you're meeting these standards.
Yes.
And so sometimes it could be on my end or her end where it's like, hey, can you do this for me? And just kind of working those things out. So it's very intimidating for me to kind of tell her what to do because I'm like, oh, she is my mom. But no, we're a great team and my clients love her. She's the face when people walk in the door and just key asset.
Now, as another business owner who started a very successful business, as you will, and that's kind of hot in the area as well, too, what would be a piece of advice that you could give me as it's at one place now, but then it's time to keep growing? What would be your piece of advice for that?
It's a good question. When you're ready, and you're going to know when it's time to for that next step.
Yes.
And even for me, having my own practice for about a year and a half and even almost 2 years, July is around the corner. We're just going to skip past winter and think about summertime a little bit with that snow this morning. But it's those short-term and long-term goals. And you'll for me, I'm this is the next step. I just kind of woke up. I'm like, all right, I'm ready for the next thing. And even just advancing my services. It's you become fully competent and advanced in all these different areas. And then it's okay, now what can I add to the plate? What else can my patients benefit from? And then, doing it and then, getting your competency with that and then just continuing. You'll just know.
Yes,
that's all I can say is you will know when the time is right. And people are going to reach out to you and doors will open.
Yes, ma'am. Now, as you get ready to close out this amazing episode, what would you say is the mark that you want to leave behind when it's all said and done? What would you say it is that you would like to be remembered by, if you will?
It's a good question. I just want to say that everyone is perfectly imperfect, and there is no perfect person out there. There is no beauty standard out there. And so I encourage people to start taking off the filters off Instagram and their photos and just really embrace who they are as a person and also that exterior appearance that other people see and let that, let them shine for who they are. That's from my medical aesthetic practice side of it things. And also, just being a family nurse practitioner and working in psych and stuff like that is that, self-love is the best love, and so I encourage people that even on, days that may be harder than others to still get up and do things that they enjoy. And to take care of themselves through diet and exercise is just really important to just help promote wellness.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Is there anyone that you would like to shout out, say thank you for your help along the way? Thank you for packing that lunch that day or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, shout out to everyone at Zenith Healthcare, amazing group of providers there. All of my clients that have supported me and just kind of encouraged and pushed me to kind of excel for sure. My mom, her name is Tabby. Thank you for holding down things at the office. And of course, my family. Yeah, I wouldn't be here without them for sure.
Ma'am. That being said, we just wrapped up an amazing episode of Lifeline. Thank you very much for your time, young lady. Now you
calling or you listening, tune in every week. Lifeline. Oh yeah, I'm going Lifeline.